my opinion, he just has to go orchestrate and do it nicely. Introduce Kamala Harris as his nominee and a very capable lady and all that stuff. And he can talk about it for 3 hours and 15 minutes non-stop if he can. And that's the end of story. And he will be still remembered as a great statesman, twice vice president, the one-term president who decided to get off the distance simply because of the age limitations. Nobody will blame him for that. I think that's a win-win situation for Biden. I don't know what he's fighting with, really.
I just think it's absolutely hilarious. Here you have Trump, who gets convicted of like 34 felonies, and his ratings go up. Here you have Biden, who makes a couple of gaffes when he's speaking, and the Democrats are all of a sudden in disarray. They don't know what to do. They're like chickens with their head cut off. But I'll tell you, there's something very interesting out there, because I was looking at gun violence in the United States. We talk about it and we ignore it. Okay, gun violence and murders in the U.S. last year was 20,000. 20,000 people died because people were shooting each other. And the rate has gone down 7%. So I'm going to Spain, and I was really upset because Spain, the murder by gun went up 23%. And you know how many people got killed in Spain last year by gun? 50. Now, check the numbers out. 20,000 murdered in the United States by a gun, 50 in Spain, less than 1 week. This is reality in the United States of America. Our gun situation out of control. By the way, I have very strict gun control rules in Spain. So not every person, like in the United States, every Yahoo and their brother has a gun, so they go run out and shoot each other. But this is the reality. This is the difference. And by the way, it's up. Usually averages around 37. People die a year because of gun murders, and U.S. averages around 20,000. It's basically an epidemic. If you look at the debates, neither party addressed this issue. Do you know why? Because neither one of them have a solution. The solution is you've got to get rid of the Second Amendment. Neither one of them are going to step in that area, and have reasonable gun rules. Neither one's going to do it, but that's the solution. This is the problem. I'll see you guys over in Barcelona. Enjoy the bullets as they go spreading down.
Along those same lines, because apparently there was a glitch on the opening and everything in that space. But that being said, and all in that kind of way, I was just wondering, because one of the stories that I had mentioned in the opening was this notion of a mass shooting in a swing state. So one of the swing states is Philadelphia. So apparently there were 9 shot, including 4 juveniles near 60th Avenue and Kingston Avenue in Southwest Philadelphia. So is this an issue that Biden needs to maybe try to press and everything? Because this is a swing state, and this took place on the 4th of July, just like I think Yellowstone, and where he is officer involved.
Neither party's going to address this. Neither party's going to address it because it's a losing issue. It doesn't mean the issue went away. It is a losing issue for the person who picks up the hot potato. It's like Social Security. They immediately pandered it when David Walker, who sent the question in, goes, "Hey, what are you going to do when Social Security goes broke?" "Oh, well, we'll take care of it. Don't worry." Medicare goes broke this year. "Oh, we'll take care of it. Don't worry." Okay. They will not address these hard issues because they do not have a good answer. Yes, Jatovi.
They do have, one side has a good answer. And that's the thing, is that the other side will not allow anything. The Attorney General just recently, from what I understood, tried to label, as you correctly labeled, gun violence as a pandemic. He just recently did that. But getting tons of pushback, tons of attacks. Because you have one party who, because again, we've talked about it before, that 20,000 that you're talking about is acceptable for those because they feel that their guns are going to be taken if we do anything on them. That has been an those are things that get run ad nauseum. The Republican Party legitimately it is a culture, it is a religion around guns. So therefore, we won't be able to do anything because you need at least 60 votes in the Senate. You need a majority in the House to do anything, and you need the presidency. And that's not going to happen because, again, you have one party that legitimately campaigns on that. Yes, there are some Democrats that do the whole we must protect our gun laws and so on and so forth. But the majority of the actual populace, I think they did a poll, about 80% want universal background checks. We can't even get that passed because, again, one party uses that whole fear tactic. They're coming for your guns. They're coming for this. It's a slippery slope and blah, 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 blah. It's not. There are legitimate suggestions, laws, but we're not accepting those because we go back to the same ridiculous argument that guns are so it's a slippery slope and all that other craziness.
But
nobody's taking guns. We have
to
450 million guns in America, and that number goes up by 17 million every year.
Now keep it.
So, but for Biden right now, the only issue that matters is frickin' Biden, and he's trying to save things, with tonight's interview, but it's understandable. I'm a Democrat. It's taking me a while to get my head around, the Biden situation. It's like if you find out maybe your wife is messing around, it's going to take you like a week or two to get your head around it, and then take action, it's a big freaking deal.
Because he's going to visit Wisconsin, another key battleground state, on today, and definitely he'll be heading to Madison, and that's definitely one of those key battlegrounds.
There you go.
So we'll see what goes on in that space and whether he has any luck with that or not. But he is definitely heading to that area to try to, I guess, get his support going and all along those lines. But
I mean, we're still in if replacing Biden is like divorcing your wife because she's screwing around, we're still in the stage where we hired a private eye to find out exactly what's going on, and we're waiting for the report.
Well, and everyone, they cut and paste his worst moments, and then they just air them over and over and over. And a lot of people don't know that Sinclair Media is, a huge Trump fan, and they're the ones doing this. And they just cut and paste over and over and over his worst moments. I think sometimes they actually edit and drag his speech and blah, 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 blah. Because, I go back and look and I don't see that. We had the governors meet with Biden. They came out and said he looked fine, talked fine. So, nothing saying that the media that's filming this, and I don't think a lot of you knew this, but the CNN debate, Trump had a big ad on the CNN, where you click to watch the video. Huge ad, but Biden didn't have any. So I just think that the media knows how to do that. But I want to point out something. We have an 87-year-old Pope who runs the world. He runs the world. I don't care what anyone says. Every president, every diplomat in the world will bow down to him, whether they're his religion or not. And they respect him. He has health problems. He's slow. One of the most intelligent men I've ever known here in North Carolina. Spoke very slow. The Yankees would talk and make fun of him, but he just talked slow. He was from the South. So, we just need to take a step back and take a look at what are we actually condemning Biden for. But I will say this. My sister asked me to please find something about Trump that I could agree with. And and I've been listening to every interview he has and every speech, not to catch him at something I don't like, but to do this for my sister. And he finally did it. He is going to push for the death penalty for drug dealers. Eventually, probably drug users, because he knows, like I do, that the rule of supply and demand is that if you cut the demand, then the supply goes too. but he is now campaigning that he is going to pursue the death penalty for drug dealers. And
Kim,
whether
before
you like it or not, I liked his proposal of why.
no,
So,
but I hear what
agree.
you're saying. I hear what you're saying, Kim. But my question to you, and it's a question I would ask to anybody, is most people that are involved or know anything about police work or even the drug underworld and everything will tell you that it's very hard to get the drugs into the country without some complacency from certain governments and certain government officials. So if he's going after the death penalty for drug dealers, is he going to go at the top of the food chain and everything? Because that's where I would be concerned.
No,
If
I
he goes
think
at the
he's going
lower
to
part of
use
the food
this
chain,
as
then
his
that's the problem.
retribution and warfare, and he'll use it and pin people for drug dealing, even though they're not. Just like, you know, we know that we have hundreds of people in jail for pot in life, for life, like for life. And they did it mainly so they can confiscate their land. That land is probably sold to China right now. So, I mean, that's the way it goes. But yeah, we've got a couple of guys here that need to talk. I just wanted to throw that in because I thought that was very interesting. You and I know what the ramifications are, but I have to agree that sounds pretty cool to me. And he's right. Other countries do not have a problem with the drug dealing because it is a death penalty if you're caught with drugs. It's a death penalty. So go ahead.
So the most interesting thing is the worst thing that people can say about Biden right now is that he's old, and
So
that's the sad thing, is that he's old. And everything else about Trump, people are okay with, but they can't get by Biden's age, which is sad to say that it's a whole ageism issue.
And
But
it's
it's
more
just
than that.
wild.
It's more
But
than that because
no,
they're
but
blaming
the,
him for the economy rather than themselves
yeah,
and where it
but
really
it's
needs to go.
But the big issue that they're running on is that Biden's old. They're not even running on the
Yeah.
economy because the economy is actually better than it was under Trump. They're
Well,
not running under anything except for he's old. That's what
well,
the
you know,
ads
I
are.
had to get back at
This,
family who just go, "Well, the economy's bad. You know, I'm suffering, I'm struggling, and da 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 da," and cry, 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 cry.
and
And I go, "Well, you know what? That's very selfish of you because my portfolio is actually
and
doing very good, and you know, so are half of the other people I know. Their
and
portfolios are doing good. So that's
yeah,
very selfish of
the
you."
the
So,
economy itself is, again, it's doing fine under Biden, but
but not
they're
for a
running
lot of
on
people.
the economy itself, by every economic measure, is doing fine in comparison to what it was under Biden or up under Trump. And the perception which is put out there is the same thing that they do with what's going on with his age. So they're attacking his age. That is the biggest thing that people are attacking Biden on. Again, they're not even advocating about the economy because the the actual true numbers show the economy is better. The perception, again, that we're talking about is that it's bad, but it's not bad, as again every economist says. The inflation is high, but that's a global issue, and that is something that is coming down. To hit your point about the death penalty idea is crude, crass, and rude,
I agree. I agree.
because it is the idea of the war on drugs, which disproportionately affected minority communities more so than anything. And this is the idea that he's putting forth, that he's saying, well, we support black people, yet we're going to put them to death utilizing the death penalty against drug dealers.
Well,
Because
that's how they
also,
got rid of Social Security users. They just let
if you
COVID
look
run
at
rampant until it killed the minority proportion and elderly. So you're
if
right.
you yeah, if you look at the actual use of the death penalty, it disproportionately affects minorities than any other group. If you also look at, if we're talking about expenditures on money, the legal cost to put somebody to death costs more than actually doing prison sentences. And then lastly, uh, the death penalty is legalized murder, because not only is it killing somebody out, this whole eye for an eye thing was a biblical thing. Now you're doing something antithetical to the Bible, that you supposedly say that, oh, we're a Christian nation. Oh, we got to focus on the Bible. But then on top of that, the amount of people who are killed for being falsely accused is high. So it's just ridiculous, the idea that, you're right. It's just, Trump.
Yeah, but I had to post something.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew that this would get their goat the most, because the majority of people I know that are Trump fans are drug users. So, they're first in line for their hit. So, it's sad to say, but that's the one I picked to throw up there. But I know that it's intended to who it's intended to go after. What he will do next, though, is he will also go after the drug users, because he knows that supply and demand is controlled by the demand. Everything he said reminded me of Hitler in this particular interview, because he's going after addicts. Okay, he says he sympathizes with them, but he's going after addiction and issues, because his brother was an alcoholic. One of his friends in college became an alcoholic, so he's going after addiction. Well, Hitler did the same thing when his mother died of cancer. He went after banning cigarettes. Literally just and he did, though. I have to admit, he cured cancer in that country during the time he reigned, and they had no cigarettes imported, none, absolutely none. There was harsh penalties. If you go to other countries and you're caught with drugs, people will never hear from you again.
Trump being in favor of the death penalty for drug dealers just puts him in some terrible company. When you look at, it's a dictator move. Some of the worst dictators in the world are death penalty for drug dealer people, regardless. And he's setting up to be an autocrat.
But his fans think no way. But I got him in an interview, and he talked about it like forever. He got on his roll, and it was so funny, because the person interviewing him asked him the question about his retribution, and Trump went this way about how badly he's been wronged and da 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 da. And the guy goes, "Well, I'm asking you. People want to know, what does retribution mean to you? What are you going to do?" And he went, and he goes, "Trump, I'm not trying to hurt you, but I want you to, and I got this." He goes, "I want you to focus on what." So they're condemning Biden for not being able to focus. So I cut that interview, and I'm going to post it. I hope it goes viral. So.
And just to answer Lee's question of why should they replace Biden, is there an issue we're not aware of? So just to point out,
I don't know, Lee, is there?
The only issue with Biden is the age issue, and that is what scared people away after the debate. And the only reason to replace him is the same reason after the debate they wanted to replace Trump, because there is an issue with two of the individuals running at the top of the ticket. And the GOP after the debate, they were in panic mode as well. But because, again, the majority of the people were pinning their hopes on Biden, and they saw the age and they felt really bad about the age, and were like, okay, well, we're scared that he may not make it, so therefore we don't know what to do. So the replacement of Biden isn't the fact of he should be replaced because there's some crazy issue. No, it's honestly because the idea is that he might not win, and to give the Democrats the best opportunity of winning is the thought place him. So that's the same thing that would go on with Trump, because honestly, had Biden had a better showing, the Republican Party would be at the same exact panic point, and they would start to replace Trump, and then you would hear this whole crazy call of civil war, just like normal. going on in the Republican Party, which is scary.
And
But
speaking of crazy, and this is an issue that impacts California and other places, even here as well. But are we going to see, now that we've had this Supreme Court, and maybe Nick may jump in on this question as well, but are we going to see a bunch of these homeless encampments where they're going to actually be punishing people now? Because apparently the cities, and I know that there have been cases even like in Raleigh here in North Carolina and others, where they have disbanded and forced the people off of their camps that they had set up and everything. But now they're saying that the U.S. cities can now punish the homeless and homeless folks and everything. And there's a question as to whether this is going to help or hurt a crisis. And we do have a crisis with homelessness here in the United States. So I just wondering, is this actually going to work?
Before we move to that, I
Yes.
just want to go back to Trump for a second. There's a huge amount of annoyance among a lot of people on the left that, yeah, we're freaking out about Biden's age, but we're not freaking out about like all the new evidence that just dropped that strongly indicates that Trump and Epstein like teamed up to rape underage girls. And
There,
I mean,
there
you're
is a
right, Rick.
lawsuit right now, and I've been keeping track of it. But there is a lawsuit. They've got several witnesses, how they would, lean back and compare who caused her to lose her virginity first. The witnesses, I think one of them should be in jail too, because they were actually participated in help bringing the kids to Trump and Biden. But, people go, oh, you only have one or two photos of him. And that's when he was younger. And I'm like, no, the photos, you can look at them. It's, ages and ages apart. But I've gone out and found, there's hundreds of pictures of the two of them over the years together. And you can't tell me, you just can't tell me that Trump did not know or did not participate. Maybe he didn't participate. Maybe he didn't.
Well,
But
speaking of not knowing and not participating, I actually had a friend of mine bring up something that I had not realized and everything. But, one of the people that being touted as a potential Democratic replacement has something in common with Trump. Apparently, they shared a girlfriend and everything, because I did not realize this. But apparently, California Governor Gavin Newsom and Trump advisor Kimberly Guilfoyle were married from 2001 to
yeah.
2006. And now, after the divorce, then she started dating Trump. So maybe there's some commonality there, because my friend was going like, maybe these folks are more in bed than we think that they're in bed, literally and figuratively.
Right. Well, I'm going to share this with you guys because I'm not making this stuff up. And I watched the whole interview. It was very long. I've watched a lot. I've watched every speech, every interview, looking for something that I could tell my sister I agree with. And I will tell you this, the only reason why I did this is I know majority of the Trump people that I know do drugs. So I'm sure they're going to love this because they don't understand. Trump won't stop there. It will become the people who are causing the demand, because that's where the need for supply comes from. But let's just watch this real quick, and you can see in the interview. Oops, I lost it. Hold on. In the interview, it was quite interesting because he did kind of lose focus many times. He said that he needs to stop the people who are constantly attacking him. But I only clipped out the part of the death penalty section. You're not going to see all of it, because he goes on and on about his brother dying, being an addict and stuff like that. But it's quite interesting. Here, let's see.
And by the way, you'll never really solve the drug problem unless you do what other countries do. And that's the death penalty for drug dealers. If you have a drug dealer on average will kill during that person's life 500 people, unless you have a death penalty, unless there's something that right now they don't even get charged with anything. If you don't institute the death penalty for drug dealers, you'll never solve that problem. You'll get it down to a number that, like I got it down, actually.
So, but the other thing that they talked about, because they talked about the normal things that most people talk about, and the other thing was abortion. And I'm going to cut this part out too, because he continuously goes, and they abort in the 7th, 8th, 9th, and after birth. They abort after birth. And, he goes on and on about this after birth. So I decided to research that a little bit more. It's a very rare instance when they have to take the life, and they don't like to take the life of a baby as it's being born. But sometimes it's better to do that than for it to suffer because of the dismemberments that it suffered through during the birthing. But less than 1% of the births go through that. It is a long, it's not long, but it's a process discussed patient, doctor, and baby. Now, in the states where they do not allow abortions at all, a doctor can be arrested for doing this, but they call it murder, and it's not. They need to stop condemning people for doing something they're not doing, and it's less than 1%.
So
Yes.
late third trimester abortions are always because of catastrophic birth defects, and they're always babies that were wanted, and it's a tragedy for the family. It's never.
Well, before they reversed Roe versus Wade and the states started taking over this, now the late trimesters are women who are seeking abortions and having to go to other states. So now the late abortions are truly women who didn't want the babies to begin with.
No, it's always a medical emergency with a wanted baby, a woman who wanted to be a mom.
Right.
There was one instance of some, 10, 20 years ago, of some butcher maniac who was doing late-term abortions for whatever reason, and that guy got arrested for murder. He was there are crazy doctors just like there are crazy anybody, but when a doctor
arrest
doesn't,
that doctor, right? You're right. Make people accountable for horrific actions. But if a woman doesn't want a baby, don't force that woman to bring a baby into the world that no one's going to take care of.
Yeah, but it's a decision.
Pro-life. That's pro-birth. That is not.
But it's a decision that woman has to make in the first half of the pregnancy. It's nobody is letting a woman in her 8th month be like, nah. That's just not a thing.
Well,
that
they
happens.
are now, because the women are having to run across border to look for a doctor who will do it for them. So that's and they have said this. They have said the reason why there's such a rise in that now has nothing to do with anything other than the decision that Roe versus Wade has put upon the women's right to choice.
I have a hard time believing that even in that case that a woman wanted an abortion in her 3rd month and it took her 5 months to get to some other state to get. That seems.
I don't, because it's a lot of these women are in poverty situations. They don't have the money to even get an abortion. Now they have to go out of state to seek a healthy abortion or get somebody to do it for them in a closet, which is what happened before Roe versus Wade. But I see where you're coming from. The doctors don't like to do it. They really, really don't. They don't.
So just to point out, I'll start way back when with the drug thing. It's always interesting to me how the Trump supporters and the Republicans and those that are attacking Biden, and they always say that Trump says what he means, but then they have to translate everything he says, because when he gets called on what he said, which you just said, he says what he means, you're saying that he didn't really mean that. We have to translate. No, he wants the death penalty for drug dealers, and he's making up that every other country does death penalty for drug dealers. That's wrong. Only 35 countries actually have the death penalty still for drug users, and that includes the US. So that makes it actually 34. So not every country does that. And on top of that, again, as I spoke earlier, you can look up the statistics. The death penalty affects minority communities more,
I agree.
disproportionately more. And then on top of that, the war on drugs affected the minority community a ton more than it did. That's why the minority community really disliked the whole Reagan push when they started pushing that out. It was just really bad.
Yeah,
But
I agree. And,
so,
majority of the people who were on death row, a lot of them really were innocent. I
Yep.
knew a man who was on death row. Never,
And
he swore up
Trump,
down he never did the crime. I
yep,
think it was like 10
Trump,
years later. He'd been shaved twice, got
yep.
his
Trump
stay of
ran.
execution. And they finally found the real guy who murdered him, the person, and they put the two together, and you couldn't tell the difference. They looked like twins. So
Trump
they're a lot.
Trump ran an ad against 5 individuals that were exonerated because they did not commit the crime. Trump advocates for the death penalty against minorities regularly. Marjorie Taylor Greene went out and tried to say that we need to start with the death penalty on some, it was some bill that she had put forward. But if you start with the death penalty, what other, you cannot negotiate down from the death penalty if you're saying that's the basis of the crime. It's just ignorant, and it is just talking to the extremes, and those extremes are taking over the MAGA wing.
I want people to take a long look at COVID, okay, and how he let that get out of control. They knew they had dictated this from get-go. The only people that are going to suffer are the people who are on Social Security, the poverty communities, and elderly who are on Medicare, Medicaid, and things like that. They warned Trump many times about this. So what did he do? He went out there and he agitated and promoted, we don't really need masks. All those who love me, go do whatever you want. He was making them get out and get sicker. So look at it. Take a look. In terms of,
Sasha's had his hand up for like half the show.
I just saw that.
Yeah, in terms of the abortion issue, real quick, what you guys were talking about, that really should not matter to us because it is a woman's choice. One of the things that I think people don't realize, and who argue that abortion this and abortion women using it for birth control, women will do it. It should not matter to us because you are then saying that women are not capable of having good judgment around that, and that they don't care or they're not intelligent enough to understand the situation that they're in. And that is just wrong. One of the shows that actually just recently came out, episode 6 just hit yesterday, but episode 5 did a great job on episode 4 and 5. It was The Boys. The Boys is actually a great show. What people are finally catching on to is that it's making a mockery of the right wing and the whole MAGA world. But in one episode, we found out that one of the individuals had an abortion. And the woman went and spoke about how every time people talk about it, she relives it. That is what we just don't even think about, is that when women make this choice, it is not done flippantly. And they relive that choice every single time it's talked about, brought up, thought about, and so on and so forth. It is ingrained within them, literally. And we don't even care that it is, because we assume that, oh, well, they don't care about what they're doing. They don't care about bringing this. They just went and did. That is crazy. This is why it should be a woman's choice no matter what. It should be between the woman and the doctor, because, again, we are not in that position. And we talk regularly about, well, you're not in my position, so you don't understand my view. Well, you're wanting to tell a woman that you understand the view better than her in that position, which is crazy. We have to get out of that. We have to be able to understand, in times of where people are having to choose that life and death situation with their own family members, we have to understand that they're making a choice that we cannot fathom at that moment.
A quick question. Sorry to interrupt you. Why pro-lifers are not fighting against men changing sex or doing vasectomy, because that prevents them to to become fathers and to have a child. So why everything is centered against women and their choices, but not and nothing against men?
Because we are a patriarchal society. We're sitting right here on a panel talking about women's issue with only one woman on the panel. We're a patriarchy. That's what we do. And so women always
Good
come and
question, Sasha. Very
and
good
that's-
question.
That is our
the,
reality.
the thing that nobody has brought up that has disturbed me the most is the Republicans not only got their way, and Trump bragged about it in this thing about doing away with the abortions. They have started taking away our right to access birth control and contraceptions. That was a bill that was just passed by the Republicans, and they're very proud of it. So now we have no means to do family planning. We have no means to do an abortion. So I mean, what are they up to? What's this whole game plan about?
According to the Heritage Foundation, which is the author of Plan 2025, which is the Republican wish list, they want to return sex to its serious procreative function. If the Heritage Foundation were in charge, the only sex that would be allowed would be sex that included the chance of a woman getting pregnant.
Let's also not forget that not only what you're talking about there, Rick, but on top of that, multiple people in the Republican Party, I'm talking about people that are running for elected positions. Mark Robinson, for example, has said that we were better when women didn't vote. There are people within that go to those CPAC conventions. They say the same thing. If you look at, we've already taken away women's rights based on Roe v. Wade. We're taking away other rights based on, if you look at now, Clarence Thomas is talking about he wants to take away the OSHA rules, which were there since the 70s. There were also rules, the Chevron deference, which was taken away because that was there for 40 years. All these things are starting to be attacked based on that Republican view. And again, these same people from Project 2025 on, yes, those same individuals have said it was better when women couldn't vote.
So Trump just revised his stance on abortion, backing away from a national ban. He said, "My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation." So, which pisses off the anti-abortion people. But you can't trust what Trump says on abortion because he just changes his mind a lot. In 1990, there's a timeline here that just lists all his different stances on abortion. Back from, in the 80s, he probably caused a bunch of women to get abortions. He in 1999, he said he was very pro-life. So he can, if he becomes president again, his decisions on abortion will be based on who puts the most pressure on him, who gets in his ear.
Yeah, maybe it depends on if he gets a girl pregnant that he's not married
but that's
to.
just really quickly, because I had a question based on what you just said about the 2025, and I've been wondering this, and I know you're not saying that you are part of the Heritage Foundation or even a fan of the Heritage Foundation and 2025 and all along those lines, but if it's supposed to be just for the procreation purposes and everything, would that be very sexist? Because men can get a woman pregnant way up until like their 80s or 90s, whether it is good or not, and everything.
Very sexist.
Whereas women has a very limited amount of time that they are able to actually create a healthy baby, from my understanding of health and everything.
So you're saying it's
that they not only have restricted, they're passing the bill to restrict us from getting contraceptions. They have a bill out there that hands out Viagra like candy. Like they get Viagra free like candy. And that bill has been passed too. So the other bills that, while you were sleeping, maybe we should do a while the world's sleeping and arguing, but is the PPP loan forgiveness amendment. And it's amending that errors that they could have made, or lies, or whatever. But it's increased the limit that they can lie about, and the errors. So you would think just forgiving it would have taken care of it, but they had to make amendments for immunity of them getting PPP loans. So there is an amendment to a bill that relieves anyone for accidentally getting the PPP loan and not paying the people with it. So I just thought I'd share that with you, that while we're arguing, while we're sleeping, the Republicans have been very busy knitting a net to protect them from getting into trouble. There's a complete immunity net for them now. So there you go, guys.
I would like to mention that why Democrats are now struggling with the issue whether to continue around with Biden, if he can still run, if he can still put a few sentences together, which is not obvious, or replace him ASAP. Because you see, the both candidates at this point, Biden and Trump, they are so disliked for different reasons. However, they are both hated by majority of American people, probably up to 70%. They passionately hate both Biden and Trump. Here is a democratic advantage that Trump cannot be replaced by Republican Party. They are now tied together, they are married, and he will run regardless. He may kill few people along the way, he can rape few girls along the way, it doesn't matter. He has immunity anyway. So he is now a leader of a Republican Party, and its party completely controlled by him. Now, Democrats have a different situation. They can, thanks to that bloody debates, they can actually replace Joe and say what a wonderful person he is. He's a great father, he's a great husband, and he's been a great statesman, and he's done so many wonderful things. And now at 81, when he felt that he is old enough. But you see, Jacoby, I want to mention something. It's not the problem that he is old, 81 years and so on. No, the problem is different. There are people who age very well, and even in their 90s, they can run, they can talk, they can do many wonderful things. Now, there are people in their 50s, 60s who are completely dead. They cannot move, they cannot do anything, they don't have any interest in life, and they're just like vegetables. They're still around, but they're just completely useless. So Biden, until recently, he was doing okay. He was hidden by Democrat operational people and so on. So we really didn't know extent. But sometimes when we saw him in public, like State of the Union address, he was vigorous. He did very well and so on. However, now you feel that, of course, he did very few public appearances. So State of the Union, that's great. But then for 5 months, you just don't see him. He travels somewhere in Europe, and so he walks here, and then he walks there, then he flies back. And the most important thing in aging, it's a desire, it's aggressiveness on Trump's part. Okay, you can criticize him all the way. He's a criminal, of course, and all that stuff. But his zest for life, his energy you cannot compare it when you're looking at Trump and Biden. Trump is only 3 years younger. He looks like he's 25 years younger than Biden. That's a big problem. If Trump also would be aging, he can talk, and so on, so that's okay. So this is an old idiot, and here's another one. No, but Trump doesn't look like old idiot.
No, Trump. You showed earlier. You showed a clip of Trump, and he looked like crap too. He doesn't look 25 years younger. His hair. He's having trouble like doing his hair. He doesn't do his makeup right anymore. He looks crappy too.
I just watched the interview where the guy finally said, "Trump, I want you to focus on the," because he kept, and nobody, took that and made it go viral. I'm going to cut and paste it and go, look, But people don't understand. Cameras can be controlled if you got multiple big cameras to slow someone down.
Where Marco?
Get your milk.
You can make someone look worse than what they really do or better. I can do it with me. It's harder with this tool, but you can literally make their voice go slower. You can, and so if I were Biden, I would demand I would have my own cameras on the next debate, not Sinclair, not CNN. I would demand having my own cameras.
So just to answer Sasha's question super fast, the reason that the Democrat Party really isn't, just to be honest, really isn't as backing to Biden as the way they are to Trump. Trump has a cult behind him. They're going to be dedicated with him forever. But with the Biden party or with the Democrat Party, the Democrats were always split on Biden. The progressives hated him. The progressives that was not their choice. Never was. But they supported him because they truly cannot stand Donald Trump and all the policies that he's trying to put forward. So Biden, truthfully, because he did not have that energetic showing, he was already not inspiring the youth and inspiring a lot of people in the progressive wing. So when he had an extremely poor showing, that's why many of the calls came to be from the Democrat wing, because they had pinned their hopes and at least he was going to bring some independence and inspire some extra people. But he didn't do that. So therefore, there are going to be a lot of calls on that wing to try and replace him, to get somebody youthful, to get somebody that can inspire the youth and push people forward. So that's
having said that, yes, Rick, you got something. And then we gotta go.
Issues around Biden's age also underline like problems with Biden's campaign staff, that when you compare his team to Obama's team, they're much less effective than
I agree.
what Obama built. I talked to like a fairly high-ranking politician yesterday at a 4th of July party for a long time, and she explained how Obama did not keep like that. Even that once you're elected, you still have to keep your campaign staff together, or you lose it for future elections.
And I want to bring that up on the next World Politics, and I want to discuss that one next week, Tuesday. Until then, folks, we really got to go. Thank you guys for joining us. Everyone take care on this dangerous weekend where people tend to get shot or blow their arms off. Take care.
Right.